Enshrouded is a game of which has endlessly consumed my thoughts since its initial announcement a mere 8 months ago, and to say the very least, nearly every single aspect of this brilliant project lives up to the hype.
This right here is my favorite thing. I think about this all night long. I stay awake not sleeping because I'm thinking about this.
From the building to the crafting to the RPG elements to the general gameplay loop, nothing about Enshrouded has failed to exceed expectations for me. In fact, I adore damn near everything about this game. Imagine Zelda, Valheim and Elden Ring all being blended together to produce the most addicting gameplay loop I've ever experienced in a survival game, only to be overshadowed by Palworld, of all things. Now don't get me wrong, I see you typing in the comment section out of anger, but I love Palworld as well. I think it's a good game for dumb fun with friends and a legitimate competitor to Pokemon or Arc franchises, but I'm also certainly not going to sit here and pretend like its success over Enshrouded doesn't piss me off, at least a little. Okay, I'm incredibly salty about it. If it weren't for the historic record-breaking launch of Palworld, I genuinely believe this would have taken its place as a de facto insane success story of 2024, and I think it deserves it far more. Enshrouded is not an early access title by modern standards like Palworld is. Outside of the issues and complaints surrounding multiplayer servers, this feels like a full-blown launch. Whilst offering technical achievements nobody could have predicted out of a studio known for Portal Knight, the GeForce video game, a fucking What's Cooking with Jamie Oliver TV show tie-in, and Disney's Dance Dance Revolution. I've dumped over 70 hours into the game at the time of this recording thanks to being given early access by the developers, and I still haven't come close to finishing all of the beautiful handcrafted content. I mean, seriously, every time I upgrade my base I discover I'm actually nowhere near beating the game like I thought I was, and based on the in-game map, this doesn't even seem like a third of what they want to add up until launch. Enshrouded is exactly what I'd expect Zelda could be if it weren't locked to severely outdated hardware ripped from a 2013 Android tablet later slapped into the Switch, a fully destructible world with the ability to terraform it however you want, alongside baby Souls-like gameplay, and Elden Ring-like discoverability in the handcrafted open world that offers near limitless potential for base building. Something you're immediately introduced to as soon as you leave the Zelda-inspired opening, allowing you to take the destructibility of Valheim's procedurally generated world to the next level by creating bases however you want. Whether that be the Hobbit hole I created, or you rebuilding one of the truly countless ruins dotted across the wonderfully large open world like I also did. The voxel manipulation you can do in this game is nothing short of a miraculous achievement, and so is the way they tailor your time with the game around your flame shrine. The shroud is the main mechanism of progression throughout the game. While inside the shroud you essentially have an oxygen meter. This time limit can be increased by finding flasks dotted around within it, or by upgrading your flame shrine. The shroud also happens to be where you'll find totally not interestingly shaped mushrooms that are not at all suggestive. Enshrouded, in my opinion, has a wonderful gameplay loop that initially revolves around collecting NPCs for your base in order to open up new avenues of building materials, weapons and armor, similar to Terraria, but transforms into a damn near full-blown RPG experience through the quests given by the current 5 characters you rescue during the opening main mission, with Zelda-esque puzzle towers dotted around the map for unlockable vast travel points outside of your base. Although you don't necessarily have to massively focus on the building aspect, the loop becomes vastly more fun if you do, especially given the damn near orgasmic sound design on display here. If you've ever had the rather painful experience of playing New World, you can expect the same kind of ASMR goodness from Enshrouded, because my god, everything to do with the audio is incredible. Same goes for the music. Like I've said previously, everything here is far beyond what you'd expect from most AAA studios, let alone the guys behind What's Cooking with Jamie Oliver, the video game. But unfortunately, almost all of my issues with the current build of the game start to arise once you start paying attention to the finer details. Despite featuring a loot system in the game, it's not actually the primary way of keeping the players hooked, almost to a fault. There's simply no consistency to loot at all. You can get legendary items from doing practically nothing, and then also get normal drops that vastly outweigh those supposedly legendary items, since they're from a more difficult difficult biome. Speaking of biomes, nearly all of them do currently contain at least one major boss fight. All of them are also pretty damn good outside of the introductory fight, since it is just painfully easy and ends up becoming a regular enemy regardless. But again, in moment-to-moment gameplay, the finer details hurt this game a lot. The only issue I have with them is how your FOV is far too restrictive for some of the sizes of the bosses. They're far too big for my field of view to be this small. Fighting the wyvern would be much more enjoyable if it wasn't so needlessly claustrophobic in a fairly large arena. Not to mention, I genuinely can't tell if this game has iframes or not. If it doesn't feature them, what the fuck? Why not? There's no reason not to. This type of gameplay demands iframes, and if there actually are iframes, please increase the time frame for them because they are ridiculously small. And the dash ability transforming into a teleport really highlights this later in the game. I'd also definitely like a bit more variety when it comes to the open world bosses, since the smaller scale ones are reused quite a bit, at least in comparison to the plethora of standard enemies you can encounter. Not to mention the third biome you're introduced to does not at all have the ability to graciously hide the insane draw distance issues currently plaguing Enshrouded.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
Even though this is by far the most beautiful survival game I've ever seen, and I'd love to know if they're using some form of software RTGI given the insanely good lighting system, it cannot save the sludgy visuals of the first desert biome. For some bizarre reason, it refuses to render a reasonable amount of anything on screen at a distance properly. It's not an issue in most areas since they're lush and covered in trees, or their texturing and design help hide the problem, but with that third biome specifically, it's impossible to ignore. It almost instantly removes any form of immersion, no matter how incredible the overall experience actually is. This needs fixing, and it's probably the first thing they need to address outside of the lack of iframes. Overall, despite my complaints, this is by far the best survival game I've ever played, and all I want in the future is more of it alongside a proper snow biome, some actual water in the game, and subsequently a weather system to go alongside it. Maybe even seasons. Who knows? They're using a proprietary engine after all, so I actually have no idea what is or isn't feasible for them, despite their quite remarkable achievements so far. If you're after a new game to buy and have some money spare because of how awful the Suicide Squad looks, then go buy this right fucking now.